Is it recording? Alright, cool. Just checking. When you do it yourself, you gotta make sure everything's working, right? So here we go. Hey everybody, this is Josh Beek and the Stuff I Heard podcast. Today happens to be Wednesday, the 29th of January, 2020. I saw a meme this past week that said, wow, this seems like the 74th week of January. It just won't end. It hasn't been a long January. I don't know why it seems like it's so long. Maybe it's the weather. Maybe it's the fact that I don't know. We've had celebrity deaths in the news this past week. I'm sure you guys have heard Kobe Bryant and his 13-year-old daughter, and you know, some other folks that are just as important but don't get the notoriety. Perished in a helicopter crash. 9 people, including the pilot, died in a helicopter crash, and it was tragic. You know, Kobe Bryant was 41 years old. He was a Hall of Fame basketball player. I remember back when he was young, he wanted to play professional basketball, and when they went to draft him, he said, as a young man, I'm going to be the next Michael Jordan. And there's plenty of videos out there where he physically did a lot of the similar things that Jordan did. Very similar body style, very similar playing style. He had the nickname Black Mamba. I remember there was because it was like they just called him that because they called him an assassin. That he was just lethal with the way he played. He had that killer instinct. I remember when they played in the Olympics, they were, I think, in Japan or China, and he knew how to speak the language, and everybody was blown away that he knew how to speak to the media there. He had a military family, so he lived around the world and growing up and learned to speak multiple languages. He was somewhat of an ambassador during the Olympics during that time, and it was a big deal. No one ever talked about the fact that an athlete could be more than just an athlete. I mean, we'd seen plenty of athletes move on to become entrepreneurs, own restaurants, become commentators, that kind of thing, maybe even become a basketball coach, or in the case of Jordan, an owner, a failed owner. But anyway, you know, he was a guy who seemed to be above those stereotypes. He was smart. He seemed like he had a killer instinct for winning, but it was the winning at all costs kind of brokenness that made him a lot like Michael Jordan, but also cost him some friendships growing up in the NBA. And you know, one of those friendships that struggled, from what I could see as a spectator, was between him and Shaq. They won several championships together, but they couldn't get along. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that Shaq was just physically gifted and felt like he didn't need to practice. And because he didn't practice, their timing was a little bit off, and it drove Kobe crazy because Kobe wanted to win. And, you know, there's a give and take to everything in life, right? And if you're gifted physically, it's hard to justify why you need to show up and put in the effort that the guys who aren't so gifted have. For Shaq, everything was easy. I mean, he was a big dude, bigger than everybody else. He could outpower anybody, and he felt confident that, you know, come game time, I can just wear you out. And let's not forget about the fact that he's carrying around a lot of weight, and practicing, being that heavy, is very tasking on you. I remember there was plenty of seasons where Shaq was playing, he would get what they called turf toe, and I think that was just code for, I don't want to play these stupid games because we're going to win them. I'll just show up when we get to the playoffs and I'll just dominate. And he did. But I can only imagine being his teammate and trying to get that rhythm down and trying to, you know, win on another level. Your mentality is, no, let's show up every game. Let's have the blue collar mentality. Let's put in the work. Let's do the effort. Let's make this happen. And, you know, I'm sure that rubbed Kobe the wrong way. But anyway, it's sad to hear that he died. It's unfortunate. Anyway, moving on from that, let's talk about this past time period that we've spent away from each other. I did a podcast last Friday with my friend Josh Treadaway, he came to town and we were talking about going on a trip to see Joey Diaz, Cocoa Mad Flavored Joey Diaz, do some comedy down at the Tabernacle in Atlanta. And we had a blast. Just tell you right off the bat, we had a blast. While we were on our trip down there, we did the typical things I do for this podcast, stuff I heard. There's a new podcast out there by a comedian, Donnel Rawlings. You guys have heard me talk about him. On the Chappelle Show, he played Ashy Larry, and he's been on many other podcasts. Joe Rogan, I talked about him a good bit on there, and also doing the one with Izzo, the founder of the Wu-Tang Clan. And he's also been on Bert Kreischer's podcast, The Birdcast, and his YouTube show, Something's Burning. That was the one he kind of took over the show and he was hilarious. But Donnel Rawlings was in the Degenerates Netflix special, the second season. He was the one that I said just was not my favorite of all of them. I mean, he just seemed like he didn't mesh with the crowd, or there was something off. He's a funny comedian, don't get me wrong. And I know that he had started a podcast with another comedian. Her name is Kate Quiggly, Quiggly, on Instagram and all the other social media stuff. She goes up as Kate Q Funny, I guess because a lot of people can't spell Quiggly. But Kate Q Funny. She's very pretty. She used to be a Miller Lite bikini model. She's extremely funny though. I've seen a lot of stuff with her in it. She has yet to kind of emerge into the mainstream media with, I guess you'd say Netflix right now is the standard for if you've arrived or if people should pay attention to you. It used to be HBO, then it became Showtime, and now it seems like Netflix and maybe even Amazon has started to do that. Even though Amazon really does not promote at all, Netflix kind of fails at promoting as well. It's up to the comedians themselves now to promote themselves. And she's on lots of podcasts. I hear her do interviews with different people. I've heard her on Bert Kreischer's podcast. That's where I first became aware of her. And just recently, my downloads tell me that she's on Joey Diaz's podcast, The Church of What's Happening Now. Apparently she just went by there and did an interview with him. And I'm looking forward to listening to that. But she is now the co-host with Donnel Rawlings on his podcast. It's called The Donnel Rawlings Show. And I was telling Treadaway about the fact that, you know, whenever you get started with a podcast, it's very difficult to get started because you don't know what you're supposed to say, you don't know what you're supposed to do, and you're just sort of figuring it out, okay? With that mentality, the first podcast is difficult to listen to because they're trying to feel each other out. The sound guy doesn't quite have her sound the right way. They have a couple people call in and they have conversations, and it's a little difficult to follow and a little difficult to hear. Now, I'm not one of those that's willing to give up quickly. I believe in certain people. I believe in their abilities. I know that the funny is going to be there. Kate and Donnel are good friends. They actually live less than a mile from each other. They work out at the same clubs, and they talk about how they have a good personal friendship. And they right now there's only 6 episodes available on his podcast, The Donnel Rawlings Show. So I thought, all right, well, that was just one. And we listened to that one going down to Georgia. And then I had the opportunity yesterday to listen to some more. And I listened to 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it gets funnier and funnier. And they get better with each other. They're feeling each other out. And it's getting to that, part where you can tell they're starting to get into a groove. So anyway, I recommend checking it out. I think you're going to enjoy it. But we left here on Saturday and drove down to Augusta to pick up my buddy Greg. Greg actually lives in Albany, Georgia, where he is a nurse practitioner and also a lead singer of a 90s cover band called 95. His dad lives in Augusta, and his wife was visiting someone nearby. Decided to use one vehicle, drop him off, and then she would pick him up we would drop him off on the way back, which worked out great. I got to stop by and visit his dad. I never actually met his dad. We've been friends now since 9th grade, and this was the first time I got to meet his dad and his stepmom. And, lovely house, lovely people. They actually made us lunch. We had a little sandwich and got to visit a bit. And we picked him up and we continued our journey on to Atlanta. We got down there and met up with my brother. Josh Treadaway actually works for the Hilton Garden community and got us a really reduced rate for a hotel, which was awesome. He went to check us in. We got our hotel room. I did a quick little room review that's on the YouTube, so you guys can see what the room's like. Very nice room. We had two rooms sort of across the hall from each other. And Greg, one of his passions is bourbons. He's gotten into this, I guess you'd call it going down the matrix rabbit hole of high-end bourbons. And he had brought a few bottles with him, some different ones to try. There was one that he thought that we would enjoy. It's root beer flavored. And he's like, I can't even tell you how weird this is that it tastes like root beer. And he brought it out and it was good. I don't drink bourbons per se. This is more my brother's forte and Josh Treadaway and Greg. But I did try the root beer one, just a little sip, and I was like, yeah, I can kind of taste the root beer. That's pretty good. I don't see myself drinking that on a regular basis, but it was kind of neat to try, just to say you tried it, right? But we sat up there and we hung out for a while, and Greg had Googled local places nearby that may be near where we were going to go see comedy. We happened to find a bar that was next to the place, within walking distance, that actually had some really high-end bourbons and had decent food and had some pretty good reviews. So we Ubered and got a ride down there. My brother was going to do the Uber and thought he picked the big Lincoln Town Car version, and instead this dude pulls up in a tiny little Hyundai, the little bitty one. Now, to set this picture right, I'm about 250 and 5'8". My brother is 6'4", about, I would say maybe 220, and Treadaway's maybe, I don't know, I'm just guessing here, 6'1", maybe 6 foot. I don't even know how much he weighs. And Greg's probably around my height and a lot lighter. But we're looking at the car, and Alex does the math real fast, and he goes, I'll sit in the back. And I was like, really? Because I was thinking, why don't you sit in the back? And he's like, no, 3 of us are going to sit in the back. We need to put the fat boy up front, kind of thing. He didn't say that, but I think that's what he was thinking. So anyway, I sat in the front. I scooted the chair way up. Everybody squeezed in the back. They looked like they were super uncomfortable. And but our Uber driver was really nice. He had some cool music listening to. We talked about music for a little bit and movies and whatnot. And sat up at the bar. Very nice area. You could see the Tabernacle from where we were going to eat. And we had a great bartender. They had a special going on. We got to enjoy some food, some drinks. We got to laugh. There was basketball on TV. It was fun. And we spaced it out where it was just the right time to walk over. We got over to the event. I had the tickets on my phone. I love the technology where you can just show your phone and they can scan your phone and boom, you're in. We were on the second floor, off to the left wing of the stage. There was a lady doing security that we talked to for a while. She gave us some recommendations of places to go afterwards. Steve Simone actually opened for Joey Diaz, and he was, he kind of warmed up the crowd a little bit. Not exactly my favorite comedian, but he's funny and he's right. He's an older guy, kind of like us. He's got kids and that kind of thing. So, his is from the perspective of, all right, here we are, we're on tour, and we're doing this. And, oh, my kids, blah, 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 Anyway, Joey comes out and he levels the crowd for a good hour and a half. I mean, it was funny the whole way through. We all had a good time. These guys were concerned that he was going to do old material because this was a makeup show from June of last year when there was a really bad storm. But he didn't. He talked about, funny enough, he talked about his friends, about Bert Kreischer and Ari Shaffir and Joe Rogan and, the things that they were doing with each other. And it was interesting. And we had a great time. And when it was over, we went out and we went to go find another bar. I actually looked on my phone and found one nearby. We were going to walk to it. As we got closer, we realized it was in a bad part of town. The guys were getting nervous, so an Uber magically showed up and we hopped in and went to a better bar and got to hang out there for a little bit and call it quits after a short period of time. think we were maybe there 30 minutes. But we got home to the hotel and crashed immediately. Alex and I were actually in a room together. And I want to say from the time we hit the door to go to bed was maybe 5-10 minutes most. Whereas on the other hand, the next morning I found out, because my brother had to get up and go, I touched base with the other guys when I woke up, and I said, hey, whenever you guys get going, let me know and we'll, get some breakfast. I was on my phone researching local places to get some decent breakfast. And these guys text me and go, yeah, well, we got up at 1:30 and walked downstairs and found a Waffle House. I was like, what? so we got back to the hotel room about midnight. These guys go out and find a Waffle House at 1:30 in the morning. I was like, so you're probably not hungry. And they both go, no, I could eat. so, here's the thing. Like, I know that there is a free continental breakfast downstairs with a buffet, and there's stuff that's been sitting out on the breakfast bar for a while, and it's hottish. I deliver that kind of food, and it's all frozen that people just heat up and put out. Some of it they don't even heat up; they just put it out, and the heat lamp warms it over time. So it's not like you're getting like a hot, fresh breakfast. And I wanted something that was unusual that I can't necessarily get at home. So I was looking up places that were around us that would be a little bit fancier, maybe a little more attention to detail kind of thing. Because, we're in Atlanta, right? If I'm in Florence, there's a few places I can go for like a home-cooked breakfast, but, your other options are fast food or Waffle House. And I know these guys didn't want to eat a Waffle House again. They would, but I'm sure they didn't want to do that again. So I had done some research, and I thought I'd found a place that looked very good. I saw pictures of these eggs Benedict. Looked like there was plenty of parking, which, parking is always a question when you're in Atlanta. You don't know whether or not you can even go there. So it was only a 7-minute drive away, and I was like, all right, let's check out and let's go ahead and do this. It's called The Apron. We drove over there, and I could see that we were near the airport, and there was a big Porsche dealership, just giant. There is no Porsche dealership that I can speak of anywhere near where I live, so this was kind of a big deal. I could see these beautiful cars parked there, and it says, you've arrived, and I was like, where? Well, there's an office building next to it that we found out is a hotel. So basically, we went from a hotel with a continental breakfast to another hotel that said it had breakfast, and I was like, really? I'm not against going in here because it got rave reviews and the pictures were beautiful, and I thought maybe this is one of those things where the restaurant's kind of like on the side. So I kind of drove around to look, and I didn't see anything. The parking was limited, and when you go up to the front, it says valet only, and I'm like, all right, first off, I'm not valeting to eat breakfast. I'm drawing the line right here. So I pull around, I Google where to go, finally find a place called the Corner Grill, and it was a good, 15-minute drive. But again, the pictures looked awesome, the reviews looked good. Google Maps is a big help when you're looking for stuff like that. We got there with no problem, we got in with no problem. Breakfast was amazing. It was amazing. Holy crap, I'm glad we ended up there. It was one of those things where you're like, oh no, this didn't work out. Oh, it worked out, yay! Kind of deal. So anyway, had a great breakfast, had a great visit with my friends. I wish that some of the other guys could have made it. I know that they have lives that they're busy with and can't always get together, but this was fun. We had a good time. So when I got home, I had some opportunity to listen to some podcasts and watch some stuff on TV. Now, I didn't talk about this, but for a while I've been watching Narcos on Netflix. Narcos came out maybe 3 years ago or something like that, and there's 3 seasons that are on there right now. I had heard about it on Joe Rogan's podcast. He talked a lot about Pablo Escobar and amazing stuff that they had went through, and he couldn't believe how much of the real footage they used in the show, because this guy was a real guy. He was a Colombian drug cartel. He's responsible for the murders of bunches and bunches of people. And I knew of his name. I knew that he was instrumental in bringing cocaine to America, and I just wanted to see the story because I thought, man, I keep hearing this is a great show. And I started watching it, and I talked about this before about how, I was discussing the Narcos show and how comfortable we are talking about the murder of people, and yet we're uncomfortable talking about sex when you talk about a show like Sex Education, which even has the word education in it. It's not like, hey, I'm watching this dirty movie. Anyway, so there's 3 seasons. I think the last time I talked to you guys, I'd watched the first 2. I finished the 3rd season last night. It was good. It leads you on to the next show, which is Narcos Mexico. And I'm thinking, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm thinking this has to do with El Chapo, which El Chapo is the next bad guy that we meet that's just a, legendary gangster, bandito gangster. I mean, responsible for the murder of many people. Hundreds of thousands of people, if at best guess. So, I don't even know if I want to go down that road, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'm a little curious to learn the history, but at the same time, there's certain things you can't unsee. And I don't know if I even want to invite that into my life. I kind of feel like I need to watch something silly now. Speaking of something silly, I did listen to a podcast called The Fighter and the Kid. The Fighter and the Kid is Brendan Schaub. He's an ex-MMA fighter who's now a comedian, with an actor/comedian, Brian Callen. You may know Brian Callen from a show on TV called The Goldbergs. He's also on Schooled. He's the coach. Very funny guy. He's on Joe Rogan a lot. They're really good friends. I enjoy every time that he's on someone's podcast. He's very intelligent. He reads a lot. His style of humor is hilarious to me. He just has a narrative that is just joke after joke after joke in his narrative, because he paints you a story, as he tells you something, and it's very far-fetched and it's very hilarious. But I like him a lot, and I was actually looking for podcasts with Bert Kreischer on it because I'd heard Bert talk about different things that had come up, and he'd been on other people's podcasts. So I did the little search thing on your podcast app with the little spyglass. Typed in Bert Kreischer, saw all the podcasts that he'd been in lately, and I thought, well, I haven't even heard these. So I downloaded them, listened to them while I was driving. The Fighter and the Kid, this is episode 526. They apparently had just recorded it recently, January 20-something. On there, Brendan Schaub is not there. It's just Brian Callen and Bert, and they actually have a guest on. Now, their guest is a guy named Coyote Peterson. Coyote apparently has a YouTube channel with billions of views. That's with a B. Billions of views. This guy apparently started a YouTube channel where he basically lets things bite and sting him. And it's amazing. Like, if you've ever seen it, it's amazing. There's one in particular where they go to put bees on his face and he gets stung 60 times by African bees. This is one of those episodes you kind of want to watch it on YouTube. I know they have a YouTube channel, The Fighter and the Kid. This is one you kind of want to watch on YouTube because they're going to show you photos of things that go on and some of the insects they talk about and some of the animals they talk about. And anyway, this guy had a hit show on YouTube that he basically did himself. He was his own producer, director, actor, risk taker, insurance policy holder, you name it. And now he works for Animal Planet. And he has a show on there called Brave the Wild. He's a fascinating guy. It's interesting to hear him talk to Bert and Brian, and they come up with hilarious jokes. There's a story towards the end about a tiger. I'm not going to ruin it, but you got to listen to Brian describe his tiger attack story. It's hilarious. I mean, I was almost pissing myself laughing listening to this. Bert has a show that he's working on that's already filmed. It's in the can, and it's going to be coming on Netflix. It's called The Cabin. And basically, he is going to interact with celebrities where they try to unplug, I guess you'd say. I don't know what else I can say about it. I don't know what else he's allowed to say about it. That's kind of he hints to what it's about. This is the first time I've heard him say the name. I've heard rumor of it. I've seen stuff on his Instagram stories where he's posing like naked with Bobby Lee, and there's a shot of him and Caitlyn Jenner. There's several celebrities in different shots where you're like, wait, what are you doing? There's one with Miss Pat, and they're in the mountains somewhere, and I'm like, what's going on? And he keeps saying, oh, I'm filming this thing, and I'm filming, I can't say anything about it yet, but it's coming. So anyway, I'm gonna look out for that. Then I listened to another podcast called The Koi Pond with Joe Coy. Now, Joe Coy, if you don't know, is a Filipino-American comedian, hilarious guy. If you haven't seen his special on Netflix, you need to watch it. It's tremendous. He has two. The first one's way funnier than the second one. But very funny guy, real good friends with Bert. They do a podcast, I guess it was December 2nd, 2019. And it's hilarious. And I clicked on Joe's tag just to see, because I've heard them do podcasts together before. And it looks like they've done it together 3 times. They did it on December 6th, 2018 and August 30th, 2016. And this is one of those things where if you just type in, like I said, that search thing, any comedian you want to listen to, you can find where they're at. Or any personality, you can find where they're at. And then when you click on the link of where it takes you, it'll have the listings of all the times they've been on, which is really helpful if you're a fan of that person and you want to hear more. So anyway, I watched that, laughed my butt off. It was hilarious. They're funny together. I always enjoy the two of them hanging out. They do a thing on Instagram where they kind of egg each other on about things. And they talk about that in this episode, about the fact that Bert spent $50,000 on a pool, but his wife skimped on the heater. It's like a solar heater, and it doesn't quite warm it as much as he'd hoped. And so the water's so cold that nobody wants to get in it but him. And he says, I feel like every time it's $50,000, I got to get in that pool every time I'm there just to justify the fact that I paid $50,000 for a pool. So he goes on Instagram a lot, and he calls out Joe Coy. He's like, Joe, I'm enjoying this pool, man. I just want to tell you, well, this is another day. I'm getting in the pool. And so this goes on for a while, and Joe kind of goes back and forth with him on different things about being in different cities and showing a crowd about how cool the crowd is. And then they do a thing with tracksuits where they take photos of their entourage wearing the same tracksuits going around the cities. And then flying on private planes. I think Bert did one where he's doing push-ups on a plane, talking about, you get all this time in the air, you might as well work out. There's nobody else around but me. And he's working out on the plane as they're flying. And then there's a thing where Joe Coy, to me this is the best one. Joe Coy wakes up. I don't know who's holding the camera. I don't think it's him. He wakes up, like it shows him waking up in bed with these white covers and everything. He's like, oh man, what a good night's sleep. I tell you what, Bert, I've been looking at your stories of you playing in the pool, and I just want to tell you, sometimes you gotta live your best life, man. You go out there and you do your work, and you get rewarded, And he's walking down this hallway, and like the camera's like, in front of him going backwards, and then he goes, sometimes you just wake up in the morning, you just want to take a dip, and he throws off his bathrobe, and he's in his swim trunks, and he jumps off of a boat into the ocean, and it looks like he's off the coast of Vietnam. The coastline looks incredible. The water is beautiful. But that moment he jumps off and he's calling out Bert. He's like, baller's got a ball. And he jumps off this thing. I was like, wow, holy cow, that looks awesome. So anyway, check out, if you're not watching Joe Coy on Instagram and Bert on Instagram, you're missing out. Their Insta stories are hilarious with each other. I'm a big fan of both. Let's also talk about YouTube, okay? Because it's not all about Netflix and whatever else. On YouTube, I want to talk about my buddy Danny McWilliams. He has a channel on there called Stuff I Kind of Care About. He's got a few episodes up where the last 2 I really like, okay? And I'm going to tell him that today. He's got an episode, his most recent one is him and a buddy go to the dollar store and they spend about $15. They have a budget, $15 to buy various things in the store, and they come home and they both have to make lightsabers out of this stuff, lightsaber hilts. And spoiler alert, they turn out really cool, okay? But it's funny to see them kind of doing arts and crafts and talking about it the whole way. And listen, I'm a believer that whatever it is you're passionate about, do that thing. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's doing the thing that he enjoys, and because he enjoys it, it's coming out. Like, you get to really see a guy enjoying doing the thing he likes to do. And in the process, like, he's sort of inspiring me to go, wow, I want to do something like that. Like, I had gone over to his house to do a podcast one day, and I sort of took over with my stuff, and I felt bad about it. I felt like the next time I come over, I just need to play with him, not kind of force my thing to do my way with him. I just need to do his way with him. Like, let him take over, let him do his thing, because that's where he's good at. That's the thing that is why you're tuning into his channel. That's why I'm tuning into his channel. Does that make sense? So I watched that one, and then I watched the one before that also, where he makes a fanny pack out of leather, and it turns out fantastic. I mean, it is gorgeous. I've always wondered how you do that kind of stuff, and he shows you step by step how he does it, and it's stuff he enjoys. So, again, do the thing you like to do, and it'll all work out. Also on YouTube, KnowCash, KNOWCASH. They finally put up the video of the ABC song with the puppet Murphy. This was the guy who was on the podcast. I don't know if you guys listened to it. KnowCash, I think it's Beyond. Was the homeless man who sang for food and got really popular on YouTube. He's going to be on The Voice. Okay, you guys stay tuned. 2 weeks from now. It's like February, I think he's at 12th. Stay tuned to that. Okay, you're going to want to see him sing. You're going to be like, holy cow, he's got a great voice. Anyway, his buddy SpikeFe, SPIKE, capital FE, he recorded him with an idea of doing like a Sesame Street version of a puppet named Murphy, asking, Mr. Dion, will you help me say my ABCs? And it's hilarious, and it's adorable, and it's endearing, and I think this is a genius idea for kids to watch content. I think that I couldn't express these guys how important it was that they just make as much content as possible with the puppets and with interaction with each other, and it would be a hit. So I really hope they do that. Please check him out on his channel, give him some love, tell him, hey man, this is awesome, do more of this, like, because I think this is a genius idea. I mean, what kid doesn't want to turn on well, I guess you'd say TV, but nowadays it's your tablet or your phone or whatever. What kid doesn't want to look on a screen and see someone who looks like them teach them? You want to be relatable, right? You want to be able to connect with people. Well, here's a grassroots version of that. And again, I can't say enough about it. I think it's a genius idea. I hope they do more of this kind of stuff. So anyway, rounding this out, I do want to talk about the fact that my buddy Greg, shout out to Greg Steele, just started his first podcast. He went on Anchor, he did the work, he set up his stuff, he's going to do more with social media, but his podcast is called 5 in 40. The number 5, okay, not the letter 5, but number 5, IN, number 40. And if you're searching it, you type in 5 in 40 and then put Greg, and it comes up. It's an icon. It's a black backdrop with gold 5, small IN, and a 40 in gold. And he did his intro and he did his first episode. It's a neat idea. I think it's going to be good for him. It's going to be an outlet for him to talk about things that he's interested in, and everything is what you make of it, and he's not afraid of the work. I've got plenty of friends that talk about doing things and they have no follow through. Greg's not that person. He has foresight and he has follow through, and if he says he's going to do something, he does it. So stick around, check that out. I know right now you can find it on Spotify and on Anchor. It's going to come to more platforms the more he puts out. iTunes tends to wait until there's a lot of them out there before they allow it to be on their platform, because they're like, yeah, most people only record 2 or 3. So anyway, check him out, give him some love, tell him you heard it here on the Stuff I Heard podcast, and we're building community, right? This is the idea. So thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for being part of this. I don't know what's coming up next. I am actually going to work out of town, so I have the opportunity to listen to some more podcasts. I don't know what I'm going to get to watch. I'm going to be working a good bit, so we'll see what happens. Saturday may be a rough one, but maybe I can do a guest. I've actually talked to somebody about being a guest star, and so maybe they'll come by and and do some lifting with me on this. So y'all take care. Thanks for listening, and please remember to rate, review, subscribe to whatever platform it is you're listening to. Share with your friends. If you're interested in this or if you want to be part of it, let me know. Send me some feedback. As always, you can reach out to me on Instagram, Stuff I Heard Podcast, or on Gmail, stuffIHeardPodcast@gmail.com, and on Twitter, and on Facebook. I got a Facebook page, Stuff I Heard Podcast. So, listen, we're all trying to do this thing we call life, and somewhere along the way, we get to help each other out. So, help me, help you. Let's help each other. Let's build community. I want to help people figure out how to do this crap that I've learned. And I haven't learned a lot, but every step of the way that I learned, I want to show you what I learned so that you can do it. So let's do that. Thanks for listening, guys. Cue the cow. Ooh.